Welcome. During this webinar, we will look at the Title I Part D, Subpart 2 Performance Report, and the Grant Management Application and Planning System, also referred to as GMAP. If you are new to GMAP, please reference the LEA Performance Report Guide on the Subpart 2 webpage. This guide will walk you through the basic navigation of the GMAP system in order to complete the performance report successfully. Let's walk through each page of the Title I Part D Subpart 2 Performance Report and look at changes for this year and some common issues that popped up in the past. There aren't any brand new questions, but some language may have changed or been added. For the purpose of this webinar, I'm starting on the Sections page of the Performance Report. Keep in mind this report is under fiscal year 19 because the data is being collected for school year 18-19. Before you can edit the report, you first want to make sure that your report status says report started. If it doesn't, then you'll need to change your status. Once you change your status, the system will ask you to confirm the change, and once you do that, then you'll be able to edit the report. Once you're ready to edit, enter the contact information for the program's point person on the contacts page, and then return to the sections page. Scroll down the sections page until you find the Title I Part D Performance Report section. Then click on the first page titled Guidance and Instructions. The first thing to do on this page is to read the information. The definitions at the bottom of the page are important because it helps you select the correct program type on the next page. Adult corrections would be selected for each facility that's under the Department of Corrections. At-risk programs may be served by Part D funding, but they don't generate any funding. And so at this time, Kentucky doesn't serve any at-risk programs with Part D funds. All of our facilities receiving funding also help generate the funding. Juvenile corrections will be selected for each facility that is under the Department of Juvenile Justice or a Subpart 2 facility that is not a detention center. Juvenile detention facilities will select juvenile detention on the next page. Then you'll move on to the next page, and I'm going to use the Go To button at the top or the bottom of your page and then click Next Page. Page 2 is the demographic data. The important thing to keep in mind when you're completing this page is to read carefully. So let's look at the first box. You'll select your program type based on the definitions from the previous page that we covered. Then complete the student demographics. This section is an unduplicated count, meaning students can only be counted once regardless of the number of times of re-entry. You will count students who were served between July 1st and June 30th of the fiscal year being reported. The next section is race and ethnicity. This section is also an unduplicated count. This section should total the same number as the student demographic section. While completing the report, use 0 where appropriate. The age section is again an unduplicated count, so students can only be counted one time in this section. The total should match the previous two sections. Then fill in the data for the types of students served. This pertains to students with disabilities, English learners, and the number of long-term unduplicated students who were enrolled 90 plus consecutive calendar days. So your long-term count is those students who were enrolled for 90 plus consecutive calendar days, not just school days. Academic and vocational outcomes while in the facility. This section is an unduplicated count. Enter the number of students who at any point during enrollment earned one of the outcomes in this section. Keep in mind, earning a GED or high school diploma is a one-time outcome, but students can be counted as having attained more than one outcome. For example, a student may have earned high school course credits and a high school diploma while in the facility. The counts should reflect actual outcomes, not anticipated outcomes. Students can earn an academic or vocational outcome more than once during the reporting year, but should only be counted once in this outcome. For example, a student who earned 5 course credits would be reported as one student earning high school course credits in this count. Remember, the exception would be for those outcomes that can only be obtained once, such as earning a GED or high school diploma. Academic and vocational outcomes after exiting the facility. This again is an unduplicated count. In this section, you will enter the number of students who, after exiting the facility within 90 calendar days, obtained one of the outcomes in this section. Each student should only be counted as enrolling in a local school district up to 90 days after exit. Enrolling in a local district is a one-time outcome per student, just like earning a GED or a high school diploma. Again, counts should reflect actual outcomes and not anticipated outcomes. Just like in the previous section, students can earn an academic or vocational outcome more than once during the reporting year, but should only be counted once in that outcome. And keep in mind those few exceptions. The last section on this page is the average length of stay. This section is where the duplicated count comes in. The average length of stay is determined by the number of students served and should include the number of days per visit for each student enrolled during the reporting year, regardless of entry or exit date. Multiple visits for students who entered more than once during the reporting year can be included. So enter the number of students served, which can be a duplicated count. Each visit is counted as one, regardless of how many times a student has had a re-entry. Then enter the total number of days services were provided. You'll enter the number of days per visit that each student was enrolled during the reporting year, regardless of entry or exit date. For example, if a student enrolled for 20 days, exited, and returned for 30 days, the number of days of service would be a total of 50 for this student, and he'd be counted as 2 in the total number of students for this section. Also, all calendar days are based on a 7-day week, even if the academic portion is a 5-day week. The system will then calculate the average length of stay. The calculation the system performs is the number of days divided by the total number of duplicated students. The quotient will be the program's average length of stay for students. So let's move on to the next page. Math data. On this page, you will provide an unduplicated number of long-term students who participated in math pre- and post-testing. The count of these students are for your long-term student placement, so students who were enrolled 90 plus consecutive calendar days. The long-term number should match what is entered for long-term unduplicated students in the types of students section on the previous page. You want to make sure you are reporting current data. Students who were pre-tested, prior to July 1st of the reporting year may only be included if their post-test was administered during the reporting year. Students who were post-tested after the reporting year has ended should be counted in the following year. Keep in mind, the data entered should be whole numbers and students are counted once. The number for students who took the pre-test and both the pre and post-test should not exceed the count entered for long-term students on the demographic data page. The outcomes for those who took the pre-test should total the number you entered for those who took the pre-test. And the same for the post-test. The outcomes should total the number you entered for those who took the post-test. Next page. The reading data page follows the exact same guidelines as the math data page. You'll just enter your reading data. The last page of the Subpart 2 performance report is the related documents page. If you have discrepancies in your data, this is where you will upload any explanations pertaining to the cause of the discrepancy and how to fix it for future reporting. One more important piece of information before we end is to note the consultant checklist. You can get there by using your Go To button to navigate and click on it, or you can go to your sections page and scroll all the way down to the bottom and click on Consultant Checklist. So this opens up to show all the pages of the report. So you'll scroll down to whatever page you're editing at the time. This is where you'll find your consultant notes regarding revisions that are needed in the report. So if your performance report is returned, be sure to check here for what needs to be revised. If it says attention needed here, then there will be notes below that section. If the system flagged errors within your report, you will not be able to submit. You can click on the messages link here on the sections page to review any errors or warnings. If you have errors, you will have to correct them before the system will allow you to submit. The report will follow the same workflow as last year, so at the district level, the report will have to be started, completed, and approved by the district before it's submitted to KDE. The only new piece is that it will now show KDE consultant approved once it's been reviewed and no revisions are needed. If you have any questions regarding your Title I Part D Subpart 2 performance report, don't hesitate to contact your consultant. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.